Okay guys, hello everyone. Now that we are having every card reveal, it is time for the final review of the last cards that we didn't review yet. And there have now been all the Death Knight heroes also been announced, and I want to start with one of them. I want to start with Anduin. Anduin is the Shadow, or is the Death Knight card for the Priest, of course. The battle cry, destroy all minions with 5 attack or more. Have a little bit of a double dots with this. Like, I definitely think the hero power that we don't really see here, but the hero power of Anduin is kind of promising. The hero power of dealing the additional damage just for 2 mana, but also in combination with other cards like Raza, for example. I definitely think Shadowreaper Anduin is a win card. It is one of the Death Knights that I would say, yes, this card is able to win. The only problem I see a little bit in this card is it's kind of a reactive Death Knight. Do you always want to play this at turn 8? Well, you probably are like, well, I want more value. I want to destroy 5 attack minions. Maybe at turn 8 people play around it and there is nothing to trade away and you just have to drop it. So the problem of this being a more reactive card that is kind of fitting the Priest in that way, but also a little bit of the problem of the Priest that can you just play it when you want to play it. It might make your deck a little bit too reactive, but it's definitely one of the hero powers that I think is a hero power that can win you the game. But is that what Priest also wants? Little bit of a question. Definitely think it is it has potential, but for now, I have a hard time to see in which card decks really Anduin will fit in. It definitely has to be in Kazakus and Raza, because if you can combine it with Raza, it becomes really, really good. Alright, and then we have another hero card here. It is Malfurion. Malfurion, 7 mana. 7 mana, choose one. Summon 2 poison spiders. That means 2 1/2 spiders or 2 scarabs. 2 scarabs of 1/5 with taunt. Your hero power becomes deal 3 damage or gain 3 attack or gain 3 armor. So, really interesting card. People will... already a lot of people were looking at this card with, well, might not be the best. I'm gonna a little disagree with this. I think this card is good. I think Malfurion is a good card. I really can compare it to Justicar, where the card itself gains you already some additional armor, and gaining your hero power of 3 attack or 3 armor is pretty nice. The only problem I see is, well, it doesn't really fit Druid that well. So, I think the card overall is really, really nice. I definitely think it's a nice value card. You definitely gain yourself a much better hero power. It's not too expensive, and 7 mana with a kind of battle cry effect of summoning 2 either spiders or 2 scarabs on the board is definitely nice. I see this card as a Justicar, and just a little bit better Justicar. 7 mana, well, you don't gain the body, but you gain 2 minions on the board. You gain yourself directly in 5 attack or 5 armor, and you gain yourself a much better hero power. So it's really comparable to Justicar for me. The only thing is, well, Justicar was not really a card that you could see there in Druid. So even an increasement of a Justicar just for Druid is not really, I'm not really sure if it will, it's not fitting J Druid. It's not fitting an aggro Druid. It's maybe in some way kinda alright in a big Druid. Well, what is there more for Druid? Like, it cannot see any play. The card is alright overall. It's definitely an alright card, but I have a little bit of a problem maybe to see it. Where can it go for Druid? It's a little bit of a Druid card that I don't see in any current deck being really played. Maybe some Town Druid. If you want to gain your legendary value, you definitely have some chance with your with the new legendary that summons every taunt on the board. Make your scarabs with this, play a big taunt deck. Maybe there will come some taunt Druid out. There are definitely alright taunts for Druid. So there's definitely a chance that a taunt Druid can shine up. Druid is a really really flexible class in that way that it has so many directions it can go. So I will definitely still give Malfurion a chance in this one. Alright, and then we come here to the next Death Knight. It is Uther, guys. Uther of the Ebon Blade. 9 mana, gain 5 armor. Battlecry, keep a 5/3 lifesteal weapon. Well, looking at that card, I was like, yeah, that's probably a pretty strong card. I think Uther is one of the Death Knight cards that fits already really well in current Paladin decks, in the control Paladin decks. Gaining yourself and fight, like the card, what makes this card good is the Battlecry of equip a 5/3 lifesteal weapon. You gain yourself a 5/3 weapon, you gain yourself kind of like a Mega True Silver with a Mega Heal. And you are gaining yourself a little bit of a 5 armor. You increase your hero power a little bit. You make your hero power make horsemans, make a 2/2 horsemans for 2 mana. And even if you have 4 horsemans on the board, what a lot of people already talk about Exodia combo, I have to be a little bit realistic. There are not many times you can hero power 4 turns in a row and nothing happens with your 2/2s. But hey, it is definitely a nice addition. You definitely make your hero power a little bit better. Instead of 1/1s, you gain 2/2s. But just in general already, gaining a weapon with... This weapon does 2 things. One, it makes your deck so good in like the life gain against aggressive mid-range decks, where you might need this additional, but you're also able to still make the trades. So value-wise, life-wise, you do a really good job. But I also think Uther adds a nice win condition to you. Uther, where control Paladin decks might sometimes struggle a little bit with win condition. Maybe Tyrion is their only one. Now Uther can actually add quite some win condition, just adding a 5/3 weapon towards you. I can really see control Paladin just gaining that win condition against the control decks where it needs. Gaining some win condition against Priest. Gaining some win condition against Jade Druid. But still not too bad against... I mean, this card can make your mage matchup so much better. Gain some armor, gain a lifesteal weapon. Well, suddenly the burn mage has a way harder time with you getting this weapon. In that way, it might be a little bit comparable to Forbidden Healing. I just think, in overall, Uther is really flexible. Uther is doing what Paladin wants. And I think Uther is a really good Death Knight card that you will see play in definitely the control Paladin decks, and even maybe a little more. I'll have to click on all these cards. Let me do that. Yeah, I opened every card already, but turned out not everything opens the same way. It's alright, guys. Wait, it doesn't also work? What? Are you kidding me? But why does it work with this one? It works with this one. Why do they all open in a different way? What did I click on here? Was it discuss the card? Yeah. Let me change this a little bit. Now it shall be all fine, right? So I just do this with every card. Scroll a little bit. Man, when you do the production on your own, guys, and you still manage to do it. Yeah, let me do some preparation, otherwise I have to do this with every card. Alright, so let's continue. And now, also revealed already last week, was the Deathspeaker. 3 mana 2/4, give a friendly minion immune this turn. 3/2/2/4 is a little bit stat-wise, you're paying a little bit, you don't want to play this 3-drop alone, but giving your minion immune is definitely a powerful effect. It is a value card that helps you a little bit in the trading ways. Giving immune where you want to trade 2 really big minions against each other, but your friendly minion becoming immune this turn, it definitely adds a little great addition towards like arena decks, I think. Maybe there are some neutral class decks that are really based on trading, that are looking for such a mechanic. I don't think it has the power level to really make it into current constructed decks, but it's not a neutral card that is like a complete filler. It's definitely a great card that you want to pick in arena from often. And well, maybe there will be some deck like a Hunter that then has a little bit of an additional synergy. Maybe some kind of trade, the Shaman that trades a lot. Maybe some of the decks will try it out. Still, like, their immune effect is kinda a Divine Shield effect, so still having my little bit of a doubt, and we'll see. But card is alright. Alright, and then here, the Rattling Rascal. Really interesting 4-drop actually. 4 mana 2/2, summon yourself a 5/5 skeleton, Death Rattle, summon a 5/5 skeleton for your opponent. So, where I'm normally not a fan of the cards that are giving you an upside but also a downside because of, yeah, it just often not making up. This has a potential. The potential of this card is that the battle cry happens first in a positive way. Normally the battle cry first does something for your opponent and then the death rattle is nice for you. Well, this card is different. You first have the upside. You first play a 4 mana 2 to summon a 5/5 skeleton, then only the death rattle happens. So what is the way you can abuse cards like this? Well, there are actually quite some ways. Imagine you play this card in your Evolved Shaman or in an Evolved deck. You suddenly make a 4 mana 7/7 instead, but even a bigger upside once you evolve it. So this is a really great card in Evolved Shaman. I definitely actually think this card has the power level to make it into Evolved Shaman. But you need to abuse this card. This card is good if you are able to abuse it, that it is a 4 mana 2/2 with a battle cry. There are also ways for maybe a Warlock deck or for a Priest deck. Warlock can give this card to his opponent. So you first do a 4 mana 2/2 and a 5/5, then you give it to your opponent with their new card, and suddenly this card actually is only having an upside. You first get a 5/5 and secondly you get another 5/5. Do it the same way with Priest. Give it maybe to your opponent somehow. You you already have a 4 mana 2/2 and a 5/5 and the death rattle is happening for you. So maybe there are ways to really get even a bigger advantage. Already this in Evolved Shaman looks really promising to me. The 4th slot was the weakness of the Evolved Shaman. There was already a little bit where people were like, yeah, but do we play Jade Spirit maybe or something like this? So it definitely has room into Evolved Shaman where you have to be a little bit careful because you really want it to combine with the Evolve. But definitely a guard that I think has great potential. Alright. So yeah, then at some point we are also getting towards a Warlock cards. And here is a new demon. 3 mana 3/6. Whenever this minion takes damage, discard a random card. Yeah, well, I can see the stats being a little bit positive for a 3-drop, but is it worth that you want to discard your cards? I mean, I don't think there's any reason, even in this card lock, that it is really something you want to do. Even in this card lock, yeah, there might be ways that discarding doesn't hurt you too much, but do you want to discard so freely? Like, it's not a positive thing. It's a negative thing. And there are ways for Warlock to make up for it, but it's really hard to make up for discard. What really wants to say, hey, I might even discard three cards of the deck. Yeah, you can sometimes have an empty hand, but yeah, what do you gain? You gain a 3-mana 3/6. So this upside just completely misses the point of making up for the discard. I don't think it is any card that you want to play in Warlock decks or even the discard Warlock decks. I think it's not a card that you won't consider playing. It is a little bit of a power creep, but just a little bit. Alright, and then we have a new mage secret. Frozen Clone. Secret, after your opponent plays a minion, add 2 copies of it to your hand. Interesting secret. Kinda like reminds me on Duplicate, where once a minion dies you gain 2 copies of it. It's a little bit similar, but it now works in a way that it copies an opponent minion. So it's not a secret that you can play well with. It's a secret that your opponent has to play around. A little bit weaker in that way. But I think every mage secret shall be really considered being a good, shall be considered already being alright. Just because of the secret mage, arcanologist, valet. The whole package is already kind of strong. So Frozen Clone definitely has some potential. I definitely think it is better than some current mage secrets. I don't think it is the best mage secret. Maybe there are ways to make it really happen. I definitely think in a more tempo-based secret deck, that where you go with an fast start with maybe the Kirim Thorn Mage and you gain some additional value. It is definitely a secret you want to play in a more faster mage, a secret mage. Then it can make work. I don't think it is, but I don't think it makes up for the tempo-based strategy that you gain with Entity, that you gain with Counterspell. It's kind of a slower one. Maybe you want to test it out as a one-off if you feel like I would really like to add an additional secret. You get the battle cry happens from your opponent, so it's really like a little bit in a questionable way. And normally secrets that are reactive and not really, and that are pretty decent to play around, are not always making it. So having a little bit of my doubts, but she'll never count a secret out with the current power of Secret Mage. Alright, and now a crazy legendary joining in. Rotface, 8 mana 4/6, the warrior legendary. Whenever this minion survives damage, summon a random legendary minion. So first, looking at this card, of course the stats are really not what you want. The stats are kind of worth a 5-drop. So we are paying 3 mana for its effect. The stats of the card I would say I rate as a 5-drop. And now we are having 3 mana left, where the effect is whenever this minion survives damage, summon a random legendary minion. Now there are 2 things. Definitely warrior can do something with it. There are a lot of warrior just spells that already help this card with like Inner Rage, Ichor, Battle Cry effects. We now have the 1-drop that will damage this card immediately. So if you play the 1-drop, the 1/3 before, you play this card, you add a damage and you gain a legendary. So there are really easy ways for these cards to already make something happening with the power of just dealing damage from a warrior class itself. You don't have to make the trade. The warrior can just play some damage cards into it. You now have the weapon that has a Battle Cry and a Death Rattle. Well, just save the weapon, play Rotface, attack with your weapon, and you deal 1 damage to all your minions. And already you gain a legendary. Combine it with the 1-drop that already damages every minion that you play for 1. And you can maybe even make 2 legendaries. So there are definitely ways that you can really easily make 1 or 2 legendaries. I definitely think 1 or 2 legendaries can directly get into play from Rotface. The only problem is, don't overrate the random legendary too much. Because there are also some legendaries that are not that beneficial or are kinda like cheap. We all know patches, but there are also a lot of 2-drop legendaries. There are some 3-drops. The average cost of a legendary is around 5 or 6 mana. It's in that range. So you can already count yourself that for 1 you probably go even. But there is quite some upside. So I definitely think Rotface in a Tempo Warrior based deck that runs these, that runs the 1-drop, that runs the Death Rattle effects or deal 1 damage. I definitely think this card has potential in a Tempo Warrior based deck. It's not a Control Warrior card. It's not a Pirate Warrior card. Or is it, guys? No. Definitely think it is a card with still some potential. The effect is kind of crazy. This is an effect that is as crazy that if you don't deal with it, you're gonna lose the game directly. So definitely, I think it had better, for people that know the Patros still from the Priest, that was a more 9 mana card that had similar effect. This card is definitely much better, and I will not rate this card out directly. Brief of Sindragosa. So the Brief of Sindragosa, 1 mana, deal 2 damage to a random enemy minion and freeze it. Well, looking at this card and it just being the Breath of Sindragosa, it already almost looks as better than just Sindragosa itself. This card looks really good to me, I think. Deal 2 damage to a random enemy minion and freeze it. I mean, it's like a baby Frostbolt. But this card is, it's a random enemy minion. So, but this for 1 mana, I mean, it kills so many 1 or 2 drops already from the start. It freezes it. Mage is a class that can really play well against minions, so it is really able to trade the minion away if you think this is a really bad random target for the Breath of Sindragosa to hit it. It's really like we had the Arcane Blast before for Mage, where you deal 2 damage to a minion. Now this deals 2 damage to a random minion and freezes it. So it's a little bit of a different way. But that card turned out to be also pretty good. I definitely think this is a card to... I think this card is good. I think this card is good. The random effect is annoying if you really maybe play against like token shaman decks or something. But imagine playing this on an Hydra. Like people innervate their Hydra. I have been playing a lot of Mage, and there are some things that are really annoying, and innervating Hydra is one of them. Well, let's play this. Breath of Sindragosa. For 1 mana you freeze it, you deal 2 damage to it. It can definitely work out well. Killing ravens, dealing well with big minions by freezing it. It's definitely a nice card. I feel might be a more tech card and you want to play it like a one-off, but this is a card that fits the more Medivh Mage archetype pretty well. I think it's a nice card. I will play it. I think I'm gonna play this in my Medivh Mage. It's not a card that looks... It's not a it doesn't look fleshy, this card. But I like this card. I like this card. Alright, so also, besides Sindragosa, some more dragons joining the game. 6 mana, 6/5 Bone Drake. Death Rattle, add a random dragon to your hand. So dragons have been a little bit harder to play after the Twilight Guardian rotated out and some more of the really impactful dragons or the Blackwing Corruptor rotating out. Dragons have found a little bit harder time. Still a little bit around in Priest. Sometimes Warrior tries it again. But definitely not in a spot where dragons are that powerful from itself. 6 mana, 6/5, add a random dragon. Like, the value is kind of nice. And the stats are not so great, but not so awful too. I think we are overpaying this card for 1 mana. So, but the Death Rattle is kind of nice. The only thing is add a random dragon. Like, there are a lot of shitty dragons. And I don't think this is making up well enough for it. I don't think this is a dragon that I will be like, whoa. No. It's too expensive. There are already so many good dragons that's from 6+ mana. There are a lot of good 8-9 drag mana. There are a lot of good 8 or 9 drop dragons that I think are just much better. So I don't really see why I will play this dragon itself too much. Not a big fan of it, and will definitely be trying out in some dragon decks. Maybe Dragon Priest is worth trying it out, but I think it's more like a dragon that you might get from Discover, from an historian, and you are like, well, okay, it's alright. But you don't want to play this on itself. Alright, so next card, Druid spell, Webweave, summon 2/1/2 poison spiders. I'm looking at this card and I see 5 mana for 2/1/2 spiders. I'm a little bit like, I can see the annoying part of it, guys, but come on, we are not gonna pay 5 mana for 2/1/2 spiders. Even them having poisons. It's like you gain Gastropod, but you gain 2 Gastropods for 5 mana. So yeah, you even pay extra for a freaking Gastropod. But I don't see any play. Might be an annoying card in Arena. So yeah, if you have 3 shitty cards, well, this one might be less shitty. And you pick it in your Arena run. But I'm not gonna play Gastropod and play more for my Gastropod. It doesn't even have taunt, guys. It doesn't even have taunt, actually. So it's even worse than 2 Gastropods. Oh, you also have to pay more for your Gastropod. Oh, it also doesn't have taunt, by the way. Okay, yeah. Maybe in your Arena run there is no way to dodge this card because, well, there are some worse cards. But it's a pretty bad card. Saronite, Chained Gang, new 4-drop here as a neutral card. Taunt, a Battle Cry, summon a copy of this card. Once I was looking at this card, I was like, wow, that's a pretty good card, guys. You pay 4 mana, and for 4 mana you gain 2 times a 2/3 taunt. That's a good card. That's a really good card. Besides this card also working really well, maybe for an evolve mechanic. I think Shaman gains really good 4-drops for an possible evolve mechanic. I think this card is already really good. I kind of compare this card with the Infested Tauren. Infested Tauren being a 4 mana card, 2/3 taunt with a Death Rattle, summon a 2/2. Well, this has a more direct effect, and summoning 2 taunts like this is much better than a card like Senjin, just being able to combine it into 2 cards, so not one minion trades really well into it. Really great card in that way, and definitely in some kind of taunt deck, maybe like the Taunt Druid wants to try it. I think this is a great card for Taunt Warrior, maybe even. I mean, you gain 2 taunts, so maybe a Taunt Warrior wants to or can get happy with this. Just in general, the card is really nice. You gain quite good stats. You are really annoying. You gain 2 taunts directly. Taunt decks like to play this. Maybe some control decks wants to see play this. It works really well in hand buff cards too, where you like imagine you hand buff this card. So you play some cards that buff your deck, play a Paladin buff deck, and suddenly this card makes 2 3/4s or 2 4/5s even. So if you can give this card +2/+2, you gain +4/+4. Really good card already itself. Really nice potential in buff decks and taunt decks. Good card, guys. I think this is a card that has potential in a lot of different ways. It's a neutral card, fits well in different classes, and it has great potential. So I like this card, and I am happy to see this card getting in here because I think it's also a great design card and a great healthy card. I think I wanna see where this is all gonna fit in exactly, but this card has good potential. Alright, and next card is the Happy Ghoul. The Happy Ghoul. The Happy Ghoul, guys. 3 mana, 3/3, cost 0 if your hero has healed this turn. So, there is one thing that you should really learn about card games fast. Once cards are just having the option to be cost 0, or they are 0 mana, they always have the potential to be really strong. There are cards already from the start on that cost 0 mana, or that having a 0 mana effect, like Preparation, Backstab, like these are more spells, but also Innervates, but also other 0 mana Circle of Healings. Just 0 mana card spells should always be considered to be there. It's kind of pretty funny that cards like Wisp have been in Hearthstone from the start on, and you see sometimes where Wisp actually is really strong. You have seen it in Quest Rogue. Once Quest Rogue was really powerful and the meta was really control, people even considered freaking Wisp in their deck. Once the buff Paladin was really strong with the Hobgoblin, well, you could not play enough Wisps in your deck. You wanted to play them all. So, even a Wisp being a really not a strong card itself, you always have to consider zero mana effects in a meta where it can just work. So this card you always should consider for a meta that where it might work. But looking more serious on this card now, costing 0 mana if your hero has healed this turn, well, it's a really nice card actually, in a way, because it's often a 0 mana 3/3. You can now heal, and Priest can now play it already at turn 2. You heal yourself and you play a 0 mana 3/3. That's some pretty cool mechanic. There are also other mechanics where you can, where you have like additional heal. There are a lot of lifesteal cards. So if you are playing a lifesteal card, you deal with a minion on the board, you gain lifesteal, and you play a 0 mana 3/3. In that way, it has great synergy with Warlock, that has like now an 2 or 3 drop lifesteal cards or spells where you gain lifesteal. If you manage to gain the lifesteal, your hero gets healed and you're able to play it. You are able to play it in a Paladin that is going for a True Silver attack, and now you're suddenly also playing you just coin your True Silver and you play in 0 mana 3/3 in it. So there are definitely ways where this card has potential. You need to heal your hero, so not healing a minion, you need to heal your hero. Definitely a great arena card. I think it's definitely having this potential of a completely swing arena card, and they are really rare in arena. There are not many swing cards in arena, so that definitely makes really nice. And I definitely think it is also a card that is has to be considered to get played in Constructed. Of course, you need to heal, so if you are at full heal, it doesn't work for the Paladin, for the Priest, or anything. But definitely a card that that I can see just having impact in the meta, and with the lifesteal mechanic getting into the game, even getting a little bit better. Alright, so here a new demon card for the Warlock. 5 mana 4/5, Dreadlord. At the end of your turn, deal 1 damage to all enemy minions. So, not that often Warlock is getting a card that just only deals to all enemy minions. If we compare it to the Enforcer, if we compare it to Hellfire, it normally deals to every minion. Now it deals to the enemy minions. Well, I'm not sure what deck this really fits in. Now, already looking a little bit of the Death Knight Warlock card that has been revealed, what is Gul'dan, that summons every demon on or resummons every demon. I think there is a little bit weakness into demons, so I definitely think having this card, it kind of is a little improvement to demons. It's one of the demons I can see being alright. We overpay this card for 1 mana if you will make it up for a Yeti, but dealing 1 damage, guys, is really good. Don't underestimate the dealing 1 damage. Also think of cards like Dival that can work really well before. Maybe some minions are at the end left with 1 damage. Well, let's kill them off with Dreadlord. These kind of cards that have this battle cry effect. Also in arena, a really strong card probably. You can trade yourself really well into minions and leave stuff up with one health, and it might work. The only problem for this card might be Warlock. And what I mean with that is, well, Warlock is not really having that great of a power level currently. that this card can really fit in. But dealing 1 damage, guys, that's definitely worth 1 mana. If you can combine this card, if you look at this card like maybe Arcane Explosion, yeah, it's maybe not worth 2 mana Arcane Explosion, but paying half of the mana for an Arcane Explosion, it will be really good. So if you could say that this card is worth 1 mana, yeah, well, I would like to overpay this card for 1 mana for the effect it has. Now I'm just a little bit worried if it's gonna be good enough for Warlock, but this card is nice. Alright, and so there is also a new giant coming into the game. The Snow Giant. Costs 1 less for each mana crystal you have overloaded this game. This card being 11 mana is a little bit interesting for me. Because I feel like Blizzard tried this out. And they were like, at 12 mana it's not good enough. At 10 mana it's maybe a little bit overpowered. So I felt they really like somehow came at this 11 mana count where it's like, yeah, well, this has to be the right balance, how we want to see this card. Overloading is kind of easy for a Shaman. There is cards like Jade Claws, 7/7 maybe, but also some just in general Lightning Storms and some great removal cards. There are also strong mechanics possible, where you can also go in towards, because it costs 1 less for each mana you have overloaded. So if you play in Lightning Storm, if you play in 7/7, it discounts already by 2. Some of the cards that overload you're not that worried about. Like Jade Claws is just such a good card that you really don't care about this 1 overload. So that makes this card kind of cheaper. But if it's really gonna be that strong, like you want to pay this card for 4 or 5 mana, I would say, to really make it as a power card. And if that is really gonna happen, yeah, there might be ways where you can maybe even make this card as a 0 mana 8/8 card. If you play a really overload Shaman that really plays around this card. And then other combos also become really good with maybe Spirit Echo, resummon effects, or that you can really combo decks. And maybe there are some ways of comboing this card. Yeah, sadly there is no Elemental Destruction anymore. Some cards that really make 4 or 5 overload. I am really hard to evaluate card because of the Overload Shaman not being that strong anymore after Totem Golem and all these cards kind of went out. But definitely has some way where it can work. It's also a little bit of an interesting evolve-devolve mechanic because we just didn't have an 11 mana card in the game. So 12 mana cards and 10 mana cards actually have an evolve and devolve mechanic now. Makes a little bit happening with trade. So if you traded 1 minion and now you trade it back, it actually becomes a new minion. We'll see. I definitely interested in this card, what it is all gonna be. Alright, and here we have the Forge of Souls. Draw 2 weapons from your deck and 2 mana warrior spell. So this card needs a little bit of a good evaluation. What we actually have here is a card 2 mana draw 2 cards. 2 mana draw 2 cards, pretty good. It's pretty good, guys. 2 mana draw 2 cards. Draw 2 weapons. Well, we now have to play quite some weapons to always make sure we draw 2 cards, but 2 mana draw 2 cards is definitely good. I also think it's drawing weapons, I think, is actually making it even better. Now I think about it. Because drawing a weapon is coin. I will even consider I keep Forge of Souls in my starting hand. I coin it out at turn 1 and I have my Warwicks at turn 2. I mean, just this already. And I also don't mind if I will have 2 Warwickses. You definitely want to now play 3 or 4 weapons. To always make sure you draw enough. And I also think it is a card that works in Control Warrior, but also works in Pirate Warrior maybe. Just to make up for this, because if there is one weakness to Pirate Warrior, well, I don't want to say that, like, if there is one weakness, it's like not having draw mechanic or just running out of stuff at some point. That's kind of the weakness of every aggro deck. Well, now we draw 2 weapons. Hello, Varex. Hello, Arcanite Reaper. Yes, you pay 2 mana, and I'm not sure if Pirate Warrior likes that, but come on, guys. This card is good, man. This card is really good. And I think it's good for every warrior deck. I think it's good for Pirate Warrior. I think it's good for Temple Warrior. I think it's good for Control Warrior. You just have to make sure you at least play... I don't think you play this as a 2-off, maybe. Because you now have to play too many weapons. And I'm not sure if it has this power level of... Hey, let's play it. Maybe it actually has, man. Like, just play freaking 5 weapons or something. Play 2 of these. Add some draw. Like, Pirate Warrior probably wants to play it as a one-off. But some Control Warrior decks, I mean, just drawing your Varex, guys, is so good. There are so many matchups where the difference of having your Varex at the start is so big. Having now an additional weapon. We now have the 4-drop weapon for the Warrior, for the more mid-range Control Warrior decks. That probably is nice to draw. Maybe you can play an additional weapon. It is a little bit of a card that I'm not sure if it's a 1 or a 2 of maybe. But I like this card, guys. Really strong card. It's one of the... 2 mana draw 2 is insane. And I think 2 mana draw 2 weapons is even better. So I will rate this card really high. I will rate it as a really high expansion card. And it fits a different warrior archetypes. It's one of the best cards revealed for me. And I don't say that often, guys. I hope I'm not too wrong on that, but it really looks like super strong to me. 2 mana draw 2. It might be because of you cannot play too many weapons in your deck, you just play it as a one-off. But this card looks good to me. Alright, guys, these were the cards that were revealed before yesterday's expansion, so I have to make now a little bit of an edit towards all the new cards. I'm gonna now... Alright, so now we're gonna continue, guys, with all the cards that were revealed in the final stream of the Frozen Throne. The final stream where Ben Brode and Kipler released like the last 35 cards of the set. I'm gonna now I'm gonna look at every card. Maybe I skip like some neutral cards that I'm like, yeah, well, I don't even want to review them. I'm doing that in safety of Blizzard, I'm doing that in safety of your time, and I'm doing that of safety of myself, because some of these neutral cards are not that appealing for me to reveal. Okay, so here we just start with the new cards that we have revealed yesterday, and the first one are and I will go of course towards all the class cards, and the first one is the Druid has also still was missing some cards, and the first one is the Strongshell Scavenger. Battlecry, give your taunt minions +2/+2. So we have seen a lot of Taunt Warrior or Taunt Druid cards coming in. We have seen the Scarabs, like the big spam of the Scarabs. We have seen a lot of 2/3 drop cards that actually gain Taunt really early with really healthy stat lines. Really nice stat lines of 1/5, 1/7, or what was it? Even buff mechanics on these cards. Some Taunt counts are already pretty decent, and I think this card can actually maybe work, guys, for a Taunt Warrior to make up for the cards being maybe otherwise a little bit too defensive. 4 mana 2/3, if you want, give it +2/+2 charge. Like, we are adding here on +2/+2 directly. So that is kind of like a 4 mana 5, a 4 mana 4/5. But the +2/+2 has a direct impact on the board in a buff mechanic. So kind of 4 mana 2/3 with a +2/+2 charge. And if you hit it just on 2 minions, guys, give your taunt minions. So it's not a single minion, it is multiple minions. If you do it to multiple minions on your deck, I definitely think like now with all these taunt druid cards that are coming into the game, the already some existing decent cards, this card is pretty good. I don't know if it is gonna be consistent enough, but Druid has a way to cheat on their mana. So you can sometimes play this card earlier once there are already some taunts on the board. And there are so many healthy taunts now for the Druid. I think the 2-drop for the Druid that we will go after, looking I think next also. It definitely has great potential. And I think this is a pretty alright card for the taunt Druid. Probably not a 2-off though. Probably a 1-off or something. Alright, and another Druid card, Gnash. 3 mana, give your hero +3 this turn, gain 3 armor. Well, Feral Rage is, you have to choose between one of them. It's kind of like a bite. Just -1/-1 for -1 mana. It's kind of like a claw. But then +2 mana, +1/+1. Yeah, that's pretty bad, right? I mean, it's kind of like a bash effect, but in a class that doesn't care too much about a bash effect. Plus, you have to face tank the damage. You're adding 3 attack to your hero. And if I just compare it to Claw, what is not a card that I have been seeing that often lately, okay? And we pay 2 mana more for 1 attack and 1 armor. I don't want to pay 2 mana more for 1 attack and 1 armor, right? And it's also kind of comparable to Bite. I guess it's a little bit better than Bite because of the 1 mana cheaper. But Bite is not that great of a card currently. So yeah, maybe in your arena run from time to time this card is going to be alright because it trades well 1 for 1. Little bit situational, but not too situational. But this is not a card that makes me really exciting for any constructed card. It's also not a choose one like Feral Rage. The only reason why Feral Rage is really good. Because it's also a really great defensive mechanic or a really great offensive mechanic. This is just too much in between. And I will play Claws. I will play Claw earlier than I will play this card, I guess. Toxic Arrow. Wow, I haven't seen this card, guys. 2 mana Hunter card. Deal 2 damage to a minion. If it survives, give wait. Deal 2 damage to a minion. If it survives, give it poisonous. So you want to deal 2 damage to a minion. But if it survives, it gains poison. So if you do it on an enemy minion, you give it poisonous if it survives. So you want to shoot at your own minion. So you want to play in 2 mana card to shoot your own minion to give it poison. Now we are not gonna... Poison is an adept mechanic, guys. We're not gonna pay 2 mana to give a card poison. So you play this card as an Arcane Shot for 1 more mana with no upside. 2 mana, deal 2 damage to a minion. If it survives, give it poisonous. 2 mana, give it adept. Give it consistent adept. It also doesn't draw. I'm missing like draw a card or something on this card. Then it was like considerable. Deal 2 damage, draw a card. Or give it poisonous, draw a card. I feel this card is missing some text, guys. Because in every aspect I'm reviewing it, I kind of feel it's worse. Deal 2 damage to a minion is an Arcane Shot. Give it poisonous is not worth 2 mana. And you don't do it on your opponent's minion. So it's an arcane shot, but with the option to give a small mission poisonous in the late game. So you have the reason why this card costs 1 more mana is the flexibility of the card, I guess. That's why we are paying 1 more mana. And the flexibility is that you can now do it on an opponent's minion, deal 2 damage, give one of your own minion poisonous. So yes, we gain some flexibility, guys, with this card. And that is cool. But this card is not so strong. I don't think this flexibility of this card makes it up. I don't think the flexibility of having an arcane shot of an adept of poisonous is worth the 1 additional mana you pay for this card. I also, guys, I really don't see this Control Hunter thing working. Control Hunter needs... Like, they have already decent removal. It's just that the word Control Hunter, they have a hero power that completely doesn't work. They have 0 heal mechanic. They have no way of coming back on the board. And yes, maybe removal is somehow cool, but that's the only thing Control Hunter is not lacking. Alright, and next card is the Bloatbat. 4 mana 2/1 Exploding Bloatbat, Death Rattle. Oh, Death Rattle. Deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. Beast. 4 mana 2/1. Okay, there's gonna be a... If I just look at cards and they start with 4 mana 2/1, they need to have a great effect, guys. They need to have like a... Whoa. That's a sick effect. 4 mana 2/1 Death Rattle. Let's make the card even slower. Death Rattle, not a battle cry, guys. Death Rattle. Deal 2 damage to all enemy minions. Yeah. I don't even want... Guys, can we... I mean, can we just play an arcane shot, or like, can we not just play... We already have cards that deal 2 damage to all minions as spells, right? We don't need to play Death Rattle minions. Four mana 2/1. I think they had to nerf the evolve-devolve mechanic, guys, and they came up with a 4 mana 2/1. Like, that's what I see in this card. They were a little scared that the evolve-devolve mechanic became too strong, so let's make a 4 mana troll card that deals like 2 damage, I guess. Huh? They were worried about Shaman, and they were like, hey, let's give Hunter this beast card. Nah, this card is really bad. This card is really bad. If this card was a 4 mana 2/1 battle cry, deal 2 damage, I will definitely think this card will be alright, and there will be ways that this card could make work. But as a 4 mana 2/1 Death Rattle card, guys, your opponent is even able to play around this. Your opponent is just playing around it, they just trade their minions away and then proc your Bloatbat, and the value is kinda much lower than you wanted. And you now have to make this effect happen yourself. So you actually need to play 4 mana 2/1, what you pay like 3 mana too much for. And for that 3 mana too much for, you are needing also to deal 1 damage to yourself, to this card, to make it directly work. This card is really bad. This card is not gonna... This card had to need... If this card had Battle Cry, we could maybe make it work in some ways. But in the current way, this is not... And especially in Hunter, guys. This is... If you want to make Control Hunter good, the removals are already alright for Hunter. Hunter needs heal cards. Hunter needs an upgrade to their hero power. Hunter needs comeback. That's kind of what a Control Hunter card. This card is really bad. Bloatbat. Okay, next one. Alright, so the Arrogant Crusader. Arrogant Crusader, 4 mana 5/2. Arrogant Crusader, 4 mana 5/2 Death Rattle if your opponent If your opponent turn, summon a 5/2 Ghoul. Interesting card. It is really aggressive stat line, so your opponent is definitely a little bit forced to trade into this card, and then it becomes a 4 mana 5/2 with a 2/2 Ghoul. Well, it's really easy to trade into this card. I mean, even 1-drops or 2-drops are trading into this card, and then a 2/2 comes into play. It is, yeah, I don't think this card has the power creep potential of being so strong for its cost that it becomes that scary. This is a card that's definitely easy to trade away, and the upside of getting a 2/2 Ghoul is not that big. So yeah, that is not such a great. It's kind of like a 4 mana 7/4. Then you definitely, people will definitely have to proc this Death Rattle, so that's not the biggest worry. But the biggest worry is more that it has 2 lives. It's so easy to trade away, and it's not that insane what you gain as Death Rattle. So why would you play this over an Infested Tauren or something that has a little bit more consistency? It has to be in a really aggressive buff Paladin, I guess, and then it can make some work. But yeah, a little worried about that. It's not. It's like a Pilot Shredder, but not always happening. Little bit worse stat line and a little bit worse outcome. Maybe can see some play, but I'm a little bit worried. Alright, and now a new Paladin spell. 2 mana Paladin spell. Dark Conviction. Set a minion's attack and health to 3. So we have a Tarim / Keeper of Uldaman effect here directly on a card for 2 mana. This card can be used offensive and defensive. It is a card that you can use to reduce a minion. It can be a card that you can use as a buff to a minion. It's definitely an alright spell. But why will Paladin, like, there are not many decks where Paladin really plays kind of this spell. It doesn't really work into hand buff Paladin decks because it is a spell and it doesn't get buffed by these spells. It's not a minion. We shall not really compare this card directly just to Tarim because Tarim is insane. Tarim is insane. You pay the flexibility is definitely nice with this card. Keeper of Uldaman was definitely a nice card, being an able a minion that can buff and reduce. So it's definitely an alright card. Yeah, I'm not sure about this card. It's an alright card, but I'm not really fitting it in any Paladin deck at the moment. It doesn't really fit like a buff Paladin. I don't think like, Paladin is a deck that has already great ways of removing or reducing opponents. Like, you have Eldar, you have equalities, you have weapons. Paladin can deal so easily with... has already so many great tools that I don't think this is a great tool. It is a cool card. It will be a card that you will play in a lot of different decks. If you give this card to Hunter, man, they will play it in every deck maybe even. But this card being a Paladin card feels a little like an overkill. It doesn't really add any additional ways that Paladin is really in need of. And that I think will, by still this card being an alright card, might not, or I think it's not gonna see really play. Spectral Pillager. Alright, a new rogue. We are switching now to rogue. Rogue class that gains some interesting cards, and now we gain a 6 mana 5/5 combo. Deal damage equal to the number of other cards you have played this turn. So it's kind of like a fire elemental aspect, where let's say you play 2-3 cards, what is not too difficult for rogue, let's be realistic. Deal damage equal to the number of cards you have played this turn. I'm not sure if this card also counts toward this, I don't think so. So we kind of have here like a fire elemental card for rogue. I think that makes it a little weaker than fire elemental, it being a rogue card, because rogue has so many ways of doing it already. They have so many spells like backstab and eviscerate and everything that comes close to that to really already have this mechanic going. And this card is definitely... I like this card in a way of like having a more of a design card. I was always missing this card a little bit. Like the text of deal damage equal to cards being played, damage equal to minions on board, damage equal to minions that died this turn. I was really missing this effect. Well, there's a really common effect in a lot of card games, but not existing in Hearthstone. So that I'm really happy to see that Blizzard sees that too, because I think this is a really cool mechanic and a nice mechanic to have in a card game. I don't think this card is having the power level of really making it into rogue decks. It feels a little bit all around for rogue. So yeah, you will pick it up in time to time in arena maybe, but then the card becomes worse. You are not playing as many cards that you can play in one turn. And I'm not really thinking that it's like, yeah, it becomes an eviscerate and at their best spot. And that I'm a little bit worried about, that it's like an questionable, and you pay a little bit for the stats too. It's not a power creep. So I don't think it's going to be a card seeing that much play. Alright, Doomerang, Zoof. There we go, guys. Let's throw a Doomerang. And what happens with a Doomerang? You always gain it back. It always goes back. You first do the effect, and then it returns to your hand like a boomerang. Throw your weapon at a minion. It deals its damage, then returns it to your hand. I like this card, guys. I think this card is good. Where I first was a little worried about Rogue and their whole weapon aspect of it, I now think that it actually has potential. I think there has been a really nice 3-drop weapon. The 3 mana 3/2 weapon that you make yourself immune. Make an attack first, or let's say you now make an attack. You throw you already made one attack. Now you want to make a second attack. Well, we just do a Doomerang. We deal 1 damage, deal 3 damage to a minion. So we already have a 1 mana card that deals now 3 damage to a minion. And we get our weapon back to our hand. And we are immune. So we can just attack in the biggest minions we want. You can do it in 2 ways of, well, equipping the weapon, attack first, then Doomerang to make like a 6 attack turn. Or you can like already have the weapon ready, you Doomerang and you equip the weapon again somewhere afterwards. Really good card, guys. Doomerang is a good card. The only worry about this card is there are not good enough weapons for Rogue. And that isn't definitely a concern. So this card is really good. It might have a little bit struggled in the current form of Rogue that might not have enough good weapons. But with one or two additional weapons, this card with 1 or 2 additional weapons that are also good, this card becomes really strong. And I already think it is at the power level where it really is already strong enough to see play, even with just 1 or 2 good weapons. It kind of reminds me a little bit on Blade Fury. It's a kind of like a more playable or funny Blade Fury, where you throw it a little bit and things are coming back. I like this card. It's a good card. It's a really good card. And really cheap, guys. 1 mana. Never underestimate 1 mana cards, and never underestimate 1 mana Rogue cards. Really strong. Next card is the Bone Baron. 5 mana 5/5. Have to look at this card, I haven't seen it. 5 mana 5/5, Bone Baron. Death Rattle, add 2 1/1 skeletons to your hand. So I suppose these are just 2 1/1s that are added to your hand. 5 mana 5/5, Death Rattle. Yeah, that's not a card that works for Rogue. Rogue is really not a class that... I mean, there are some Death Rattle Rogue decks around, and that has some play in some way that there are Death Rattles. We have seen another Rogue card that if you draw a Death Rattle card, you draw another card. But nah, this card is not a good card. Especially in Rogue, they cannot handle this slow mechanic of cards. Rogue is either is really good proactive and really good reactive. Well, this is not a proactive card, and this is not a good reactive card, so it doesn't fit in any it's not a rogue card. I look at this card and I'm like, this is not a rogue card. You can probably definitely pick this from time to time in Arena. It's kind of alright card in that way of being a decent value card for 5 mana. But in any current rogue deck, yeah, you have to play it like with N'Zoth or something. But getting a card that is a 5 mana 5/5, you pay a lot for this card, and I will say, yeah, it is a rogue card. I know, guys, but what I mean with that is it doesn't fit any playstyle that I see as a rogue playstyle. So gonna be a hard card to make it work. Of course, the stat line is okay. So you have a 5 mana 5/5. It's not too bad, but what you see in Constructed is we are not playing the alright cards. We are playing the insane cards, the good cards, the woe cards. A card that is alright doesn't really get too much play into Constructed, and that's my worry about this card. Alright, and one more Shaman spell also being revealed. 4 mana, Avalanche. Freeze a minion and deal 3 damage to adjective ones. Wow. What does that exactly mean? So you freeze, it's kind of like a Con of Cold by dealing the 3 damage to the next ones. That's kind of, that might be a little bit better than Con of Cold. You also have the mechanic of like having this weapon. This is definitely a decent spell. Like, this spell is definitely decent. It's just that it is well, Free Shaman is like not so decent, I think. So that worries me a little bit. 4 mana, freeze a minion and deal 3 damage to the next one. So it's like a multi-shot and freezing a minion. It's a decent card, guys. It's a decent card. So the problem of this card is that it's a Shaman card, and Shaman, is it really? I mean, it's a little bit of a situational one, because if there are not 3 minions on the board, this card becomes kind of weak. You only deal 3 damage and freeze a minion if there are 2 minions, and if there's 1 minion it doesn't do anything. So that worries me a lot, because that's why Con of Cold is also not so great all the time, that it doesn't freeze the whole board. There are a lot of token based decks, so that's definitely why it can be good. It can be great as an against the card where you just need to freeze a minion, and well, if Shaman gains enough additional cards that really benefit from freezing, it has potential. I'm not so sold on this Free Shaman thing. I don't think Free Shaman gained enough to become a really great archetype yet, and that is why I'm a little bit questioning this spell, where the spell is kind of alright. I don't see it really becoming into much play yet. Alright, guys, and so we go towards the next Death Knight card. It is Gul'dan, Blood Reaver Gul'dan. Summon all friendly demons that died this game, gain 5 armor, gain a hero power of deal 3 damage, lifesteal for 2 mana. Looking at this card first, the 10 mana N'Zoth effect that you gain on this card, summon all friendly demons that died this game, is a strong effect. You gain a battle cry of N'Zoth. That's definitely a good card. That's definitely an aspect. Now we just have to review how are the demons, because demons is not really a thing that we see too much around after some really strong demons rotated out, like Voidcaller, Mal'Ganis. Like, this card can be completely nuts in Wild or something, but I'm only focusing on Standard. Now we go towards the 5 armor aspect is kind of alright, and then the hero power. So what is really nice about this card is the hero power. I think this is one of the Death Knight cards that if you play it, you win. The hero power of 2 mana, deal 3 damage lifesteal. Like, are you kidding me, guys? 2 mana, deal 3 damage, heal for 3. That's insane. That's really insane for 2 mana. That's one of the best hero powers I've ever seen. So, in that way, it's a really, really great card. The only worry for me is we need to play with demons a little bit. And I have to feel like, how do we manage to play enough demons to make this card work? There are now some demons revealed. We have some alright demons. But we might really want to play. This is a card that you can make your deck around. That's what I want to say. We can now maybe play Demon Lock again because of Gul'dan. This is a card that you gain all the demons. It's a completely Nazot effect. You gain a full board of demons again for 10 mana. You gain a hero power that completely can win you the game. It definitely is a card that can win you the game. So now we just need to make it work, that you can also win with the game. And that might be the hard part, because of demons. There are some kind of nice demons, but I think you really have to make yourself a demon lock deck. You might play it with Cruel. Cruel has great synergy with this, because you play Cruel on turn 7. You gain a lot of demons on the board, and you play this at turn 9 or turn 10 when they all died. You completely gain a new board. You gain 5 armor. You gain a really good hero power. So this card is really good. It is just the question, is it gonna be good enough, or is Demon Lock gonna be good enough for me? Or some kind of control Warlock with some demons. Maybe that can also still work. So that is the big concern. Warlock definitely not in the spot where it is in the best spot it has ever been. So you need to make it, it needs to be really strong. So yeah, it is where you become in one of the best hero. It's definitely in one of the Death Knight's card with a great upside and with a great win effect. And it's definitely a card that we needed for Warlock. So I'm happy to see that. I'm also so happy that this is not a card that has anything to do with this card. I will be really disappointed if we won't get a Death Knight card for Warlock that had anything to do with this card. So I'm really happy to see this. That's not the case. 10 mana, it's really expensive. It is like a Nazot effect. We know how good Nazot can be, but we know how slow Nazot can be. So we really have to figure that one out. I think this card is definitely potential. I'm really excited for this card, and I love Demon Lock, so I'm gonna really do my best to make the card also work, and it definitely has good potential. Alright, so we go to the next one. Alright, so the next one is the last hero card, guys, that we had to reveal. And the last hero, Death Knight hero card that came out was a Garage. Garage. 8 mana, so the warrior one is 8 mana. Battlecry equipment 4/3. Shadowmourne, and that also damages the minions next to it. Interesting. 4/3 weapon. 5 mana. Your hero power becomes 2 mana. Deal 1 dealing and 1 damage AoE effect. So you gain your hero power becomes a wild effect. So that is, you gain a 4/3. I don't think the warrior hero power is that insane if you gain like that kind of effect. So I don't rate the hero power that high. Even it's definitely a warrior that fits kind of like a warrior hero power. The weapon is kind of nice, of like dealing additional minions to the next one, the minions next to it. Yeah, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sold on Garage, huh? Like, the hero power is not so good of this card. The weapon kinda nice, but do I want to pay 8 mana for that weapon? I really see this as I look at this battle cry, I look at the hero power, I look at the effect, and I'm mainly thinking I'm paying this 8 mana for the weapon. And do you want to pay 8 mana for a 4/3 Shadowmourne that also deals damage to the next minions to it. I mean, Whelmwind every turn is definitely good for a Control Warrior. This card can fit in Control Warrior. It can fit into Control Warrior, but then it will be like, it will really feel like I add this card into a Control Warrior deck as an additional card. It wouldn't be like I make this my deck around this card, because that's how insane the card is. No, that's not the case. This is a card that you might want to add towards a Warrior deck, but I'm not so sure. Maybe it's more like a Temple Warrior card or something that maybe you want to play into these decks, where you gain an aggressive weapon, you gain a weapon that also can hit the face, or you have potential of killing. You gain an effect where it activates cards like Garrosh, it activates draw mechanics, it activates legendaries or whatever, so it definitely has some potential here. It definitely has some potential, but yeah, it's not as strong. Garrosh also didn't need a really strong hero power in a way. I kinda can see this as an like I kinda compare it towards the Paladin one, where yeah, it's a nice one that you can add towards warrior decks, and it has potential into control and tempo warrior decks. Alright, and guys, have you seen this card yet? The Lich King Arthas joining Hearthstone. The Lich King. Where everybody was of course already expecting something of Arthas or the Lich King joining Hearthstone. Well, here it is, and wow. Wow. That's... How did it join Hearthstone, guys? How did Arthas join the Hearthstone? How did the Lich King join Hearthstone? 8 mana, 8/8, taunt at the end of the turn, add a random Death Knight card to your hand, and guys, these Death Knight cards are insane. Some of these Death Knight cards are completely insane. They are kind of like Ysera kind of card effects. We have they are really, for what they are doing, they are all 3, 4, 5 mana, and all having a really insane effect of deal 3 damage AoE, steal a card from your opponent's deck, deal 5 damage for 2 mana, or a lot of completely insane effects for this card. And 8 mana, 8/8 taunt, guys. It is actually not a slow card. It kind of has an... What is always the problem of 8/9 mana cards is if they are cards that are just 8 or 9 mana, they have a great effect, but nobody cares. They just ignore the card. Well, this card has taunt, and guys, this card is so strong. I think it's definitely strong. We just have to consider how strong it is, because this is a really strong card for every control kind of deck. 8 mana, 8/8 taunt is nice. Draw a Death Knight card, and also the potential in control mirrors to draw multiple Death Knight cards. Really strong. Even a card that you can even get from your Stonehill Defenders, now I think about it, so that is also pretty wow. Card great for decks that can also cheat on their mana. With that I mean Druid mainly. Play this in any Druid deck and play this card any earlier and you are really strong. So really strong card for every control deck, I would say. The Warrior just is a little bit from, well, is it gonna be like, if I compare this card to... There are two cards I want to compare this card with. The first one is Ysera. So, Ysera is kind of a good card for 9 mana, but it doesn't see really much dead play because of it being 9 mana and people, well, you don't... Yes, it is really strong, but, well, it just gets ignored. The upside of this card is, if you will make Ysera 1 mana cheaper, it will already become kind of really strong, but this card also having taunt, it definitely adds up. Yes, the stat line is maybe, well, there's a little bit less heal, but it is great. It is really, really great. So this card is really strong. If I compare the card to, let's say, Primordial Drake, well, it's kind of similar in the way the cost of the card, the way this card has taunt. It might be in some ways a little bit weaker, because it is a little bit weaker against aggressive decks. You don't have this battle cry effect of deal 2 damage to the other minions. For that you make a withdrawing a card. So I can see this card not sometimes not being as good as Primordial Drake in aggressive matchups. But sometimes it can also still be with the Death Knight card you gain. So yeah, it definitely, guys, the card is really great. I'm now talking about one of the best cards revealed of the last set, Primordial Drake. The Lich King, guys, it is a really good card. It is definitely a card that we will see into control decks. I definitely think Druid has really big benefit. Big Druid, any kind of Druid. Taunt decks, play it in any kind of decks that also wants to play taunts. Maybe Paladin is like, you definitely want to try it out in Paladin, but you already have great 8 drops, so that might be a little Warrior. I think Warrior really benefits, Druid really benefits, and there are definitely more potential decks that can really benefit from this card. So yeah, it's a really good card. There are so many spells. There are 4 or 5 mana spells that just summon 5 minions on your board, discarding some cards, but the tempo you gain afterwards from the Lich King is really nice. It is a really promising card. It's a really promising card. We're gonna see this one definitely play. It is just that I'm a little bit worried we should also maybe not overrate this card in some way. That is what I'm worried about, because of it not having always this direct effect as Primordial Drake had. But guys, the card is really good. It's definitely one of the best cards revealed out of the set. Alright, and so the second card that is able to get Death Knight cards. There are two cards that can get Death Knights. We now saw the Lich King, and now we see Arthas. Arthas, huh? Death Rattle, add a random Death Knight card to your hand. So yeah, 4 mana 2/2 is definitely really slow, but adding a Death Knight card to your hand is really sick. So we definitely have a card here that draws you a really sick card. Compared to maybe other cards that draw you, the only thing is it's still a little bit random, and like you add a random Death Knight, it's not like a discover. That is why Cabal Courier sometimes became kind of good for 3 mana 2 to discover a card. No, you are not able to discover. It's a really slow card, guys. 4 mana 2/2 Death Rattle. I don't know, even Death Rattle might become even scary because of cards that are potentially stealing you, like a priest can do really nasty things with the Arthas. And yeah, the card is really slow. A 4 mana 2/2 is really slow. Death Rattle of adding a sick card to your hand is definitely nice, but you have to really make up for this Death Rattle. If this card was a Battle Cry, I would really rate this card quite well. This card being a Death Rattle, I don't think it's gonna be... I think that's a really big problem of this card. A really big problem. And that is why I think that it doesn't gonna... I don't think this card is so good. I don't think it's so good. If it had Battle Cry, this card was pretty good. Now it's not so good. It's too weak. It's too questionable. It's a random card. It's not like a Discover or something. And it's not fitting. It's 4 mana 2/2 is it's really slow, guys. I don't know where you can fit this in. And I'm also too scared that sometimes things happen with this card. And like, yeah, maybe it gets silenced. It gets stolen by the priest. Like, there's too much that can happen with this card. So you need this Death Rattle to happen directly. And that's too problematic. Alright. Furnacefire Colossus. 6 mana 6/6 Battle Cry. Discard all weapons from your hand and gain their stats. Yeah, that is a pretty crazy YOLO card in a way of like, yeah, I have a 5/2 Arcanite Reaper, and now I eat my Arcanite Reaper, and I have a 6 mana 11/8. I mean, it can be good in some situations where you face a class that has really big problems dealing with big minions like a Druid, and you gain a 6 mana 11/8 or something, or an 11/8, but discarding also all your weapons. I mean, you can make your deck around this, and you make like a mega guy, and you have then double Arcanite Reaper and a Warx in your hand, and this card suddenly becomes a 1912 or something. Like, what the hell for 6 mana? So it's pretty crazy card, to be honest. 6 mana. What did I say? 6 mana, 1912. If you remove 2 Arcanite Reapers and a Warx from your hand. But, I mean, guys, there are a lot of decks that have a lot of good removal, and you just instantly lose. Yeah, I don't think this card is gonna be that good, but hey, you can win a game with this. You can win a game with this, guys. Maybe you play it in Rogue, and you try to give it like a stealth effect, and you discard your Assassin's Blade or something. Nah, it's too weak to removal, I would say. Like, you remove weapons are so good in play, so you don't really want to discard them that badly. I don't know, it feels a little too YOLO. It's definitely, you're gonna win a game with this and you're gonna feel freaking good, but you're also gonna often lose and then you just concede. But hey, if you just do it 10 times and you win 1 or 2 times with it, you feel pretty satisfied, so you can definitely have some fun around with it. Alright, 4 mana 3/3. Punisher, Battlecry, give a random lifesteal minion in your hand +2/+2. Alright. Give a random lifesteal minion in your hand +2/+2. 4 mana +2/+2 to your Wicker Flame. 4 mana 2/2 to other minions. I don't think, like, there are not that many lifesteal cards. I was expecting a lot of lifesteal cards, not that many lifesteal cards. Is there anything I should keep in mind? I mean, it's nice with Wicker Flame. That's the only thing that directly comes into my mind. 4 mana 3/3, so it's kind of like a 4 mana 5/5, little bit slower, but kind of fast still. Don't forget, guys, +2/+2 is really good on a lifesteal card because you lifesteal additional. Coin this out or play this on turn 4. Do it on your Wicker Flame, and your Wicker Flame is a 4/4 and it has additional heal. So you definitely make a little bit up for the slow part of this card. Yeah, the hard card for me to evaluate. Lifesteal is definitely a card that you should not underestimate. Because of you just gain so much life back sometimes. Can be really great. I wonder if it's gonna be... wonder how strong it's gonna be, that +2/+2. Like, there's a 3 mana charger that gains +2, but that are not really cards you want to buff too badly off the stat line. You want defensive cards to be buffed, because then the +2, like if you buff a 1/4, the 1/4 suddenly becomes a 3/6, and then it becomes totally different. Yeah, it's kind of meh. It's kind of meh for me. I don't see the good enough value for the card yet. Drakkari. Your end of the turn effect triggered twice. So this is a card you shall not underestimate because of the craziness of the card. If you have crazy cards like the Lich King, and you can combine this card with it, and you suddenly gain 2 Death Knight cards. It kind of reminds me on Barnes, and we all know how great Barnes has been. The difference with... And I don't think the stat line matters too much. If it's a 3 mana 2/4 and 3 mana 1/5, the craziness of this card is insane. But are there more cards I need to know? I'm now thinking your end of the turn. What are the end of the turn effects? Are there any end of the turn effects that, besides the Lich King, I should know about? I mean Bran, sorry, did I say Barnes? I mean Bran. It really reminds me on Bran, as in 3 mana 2/4 and now in 3 mana 1/5. The stat line doesn't matter, but the difference with Bran is that it really, it had so much synergy with all the Battle Cry effects, and Battle Cry effects was also in tempo gain, so you wanted to do it as fast as you can, and you didn't lose tempo. But I don't really know end of the turn effects. Like, I know the Trafficker from the Warlock. You need to have like, yeah, like you have some, like, I don't want to go into wild. You have some like the Shaman cards have some synergy with their totems. The Primal Fin summons a 1/1. The Mana Tide draws you a card, so you have like some totem value. You also healing totem, healing for 2, right? So the shaman has some value, I guess. And that is where it can maybe work. Yeah, you have like this crazy legendary value with just the Lich King. And that is definitely worth to consider because of the craziness. You have Ysera, can work well with it. And for the rest, it is kind of like a shaman effect. Ragnaros healing twice, right? Heck, Ragnaros Lightlord. Guys, things like this. So, but maybe in Warlock. Like Warlock also now gained this this 5-drop that deals 1 damage at the end of the turn to your opponent. So maybe there's something possible for this card in Warlock. Otherwise, Shaman. So these are the potentials, and of course the power creeps like the Lich King and Ysera. I definitely think this card is considerable in combination with the Lich King because of the power of the Lich King. I don't think this is a card you should consider with Ysera just because of which deck can you even fit that in, and this cost goes the cost goes over too much mana. This design is a crazy design. You have Yshar actually too, guys. The end of the turn. Wow, Yshar is an insane effect too. So there are definitely effects, guys, where this card has potential. The effect of this card is crazy. Because of this effect, this card has to be considered. The 3 mana 1/5 is completely fine when you get such an insane effect. So that is why the card definitely has to be considered. I'm just worried that there might not be enough end of the turn effects yet. But with Shaman, with Warlock, and with some crazy legendary cards, this card has to be considered, and we're definitely gonna try it out. Alright, Keening Banshee. 4 mana 5/5. Whenever you play a card, remove the top 3 cards of your deck. So you have a little bit of a power creep here, 4 mana 5/5. And for that, whenever you play a card, you remove it. Kind of reminds me on the Fel Reaver. That was a little bit of a power creep at 5 mana 8/8. And for that, every time your opponent played a card, you remove the top 3 cards of your deck. I don't think this card is such a power creep. I mean, I will not really play Yeti or something, and this card is a little bit better than Yeti. I mean, this card is or remove 3 cards, guys. It is not an effect you should sometimes be too worried about. But this is not a card you probably can play 2-offs. I mean, there are some things that is really nice about this card. Just play this in your Warlock deck, make some decent trades, then give it to your opponent. That's also troll. You might just play it in decks that want good stat line. Cards with good stat line, guys, you should always consider. 4 mana 5/5 is good. Oh, you missed 3 cards in your deck. Well, then I play my deck with 27 cards. Who cares? Like, nobody cares. We are not playing in a fatigue mana. So this card is alright. It's just an alright card. But the problem with alright cards is, well, alright cards are not sick cards, and we are mainly playing sick cards in Constructed. So yeah, it is a card that is alright, and I wonder if it finds any play. Maybe some decks are just really in bad need of stat lines, and you don't care too much that you play with 27 cards in your deck. Yeah, it's definitely also a considerable arena card because of that. Alright, so what do we have here? 5 mana 2/2 Death Rattle. Guys, when I already see 5 mana 2/2 Death Rattle, I'm already like, oh my god, there we go again. Can we know that 5 mana 2/2 Death Rattle is 5 mana? Can you imagine where you have a board and your opponent has like a 4-drop and a mediocre minion, and you are like playing a 5 mana 2/2 Death Rattle, and your opponent is like, what the hell did you just do? Okay, now let's read the Death Rattle, because I don't even... If it is your opponent's turn, summon a 8/8 Skeleton. You don't even gain the 8/8 Skeleton every time, guys. if it is your opponent's turn. No, you gain it every time. You gain it every time, or... Okay, so it's kind of like a battle cry. 4 mana 2/2 if it's your opponent's turn, summon a... No, it's a death rattle. Hey, this is so slow. So 4 mana 2/2, death rattle if it is your opponent's turn. So your opponent has to trade into this, right? If he doesn't trade into it... Hey... Your opponent is not gonna trade in a 5 mana 2/2, guys. How can you force your opponent to trade into this? Like, your opponent is gonna ignore it, and if you trade yourself, you are playing a 5 mana 2/2. I guess they had to... I guess they had to weaken out the evolve and devolves a little bit. Now it actually is kind of an improvement for that. But what is good about this card is, I mean, you can play it with buff cards, I guess. You can give it Spiker's Teeth, and you just can win the game. People gonna ignore this card, so it definitely has some potential. Play the Bone Mare, play in Spiker's Teeth on this card. Play it into a Doomsayer. That's actually okay. Okay, there is some room for this card. Might be just a little bit too... You can play this card really well with buff cards, maybe. Like, you gain a lot of value out of this card. It's a little bit weak to silence, though, if you're gonna, like, Spiker's Teeth this. And then your opponent is gonna be like, oh, here's my Hex, oh, here's my Silence. You're gonna lose the game. That's a lot of tempo you lost, so a little bit scary. Maybe you can combine this Death Rattle with like an Umbra, but it's too hard, man. It's too expensive, and you don't gain really the tempo. But this card is the stat line is so good that even the card being so bad, kinda, but the stat line being, or the stat line you can gain out of this card being really good, there can be maybe some potential ways. I'm trying my best, guys, to come up with something. It's pretty good art, by the way. It's pretty good art, right? This skeleton. Hey, 4 mana 1/1. Game +1. So if 2 minions died, it's a 4 mana 3/3. Oh, it's so bad. I mean, there might be some ways this card can become a 4 mana 5/5. But it's so inconsistent. I mean, you need to go like Bloodbloom, Doom, and then you can make a 4 mana 8/8 or something. You want to play it for a... You need to at least make it a 4 mana 6/6. You need to have 5 cards being traded off. That's so difficult. Maybe I'm missing something on this card though, but... Maybe you can play Frost Nova Doomsayer. Doomsayer goes up and you play 4 mana 6/6 power creep or something. It's kind of fancy. It works with enemy minions too, so you have to keep in mind that it works with each minion, so also your opponent's minion. But yeah, it's gonna be hard. Pyro Equality, play this. I mean, there are some nice things actually happening with this card. But it's gonna be really so questionable or so inconsistent that the inconsistency is just hurting this card a lot too. We'll see, guys. There are definitely combos possible with this card, but there's a lot of inconsistency in this card. Alright, Grim Necromancer, 4 mana 2/2, summon 2 1/1s. It's kind of like the... It reminds me on this arena, or like this neutral card, the 4 mana 2/4, summon a 2/1. It's kind of almost exactly the same, but except of summoning a 2/1, we summon 2 1/1s. It's kind of like an Evolved Shaman card, alright? I mean, play this in Evolved Shaman and your 4-drop becomes an... You can make it kind of alright again. So many good 4-drops for the kind of evolved decks nowadays. Doctor 4. No, it's not Doctor 4. It's a decent card for token decks, maybe. It's kind of like Teacher Way. I mean, play it in Aggro Druid and give it and buff it with the buff it a little bit. Alright, there's some decent effect maybe in that. But I don't see it making it yet, because I mean, it's an Ock card. Can I give this card just Ock? I mean, what can I review about this? It's just a decent card. It's kind of an Ock card with maybe good potential for Shaman and Druid. It's like alright, this card. It's better than a 4 mana 4/6, I think. Or nah, not really. But it's better than a 4 mana 3/5. It's an alright card. Alright, here we have the Frostrider. 3 mana 4/4 Battlecry, freeze your other minions. So just to be clear, this freezes your minions. But it's a really power creep. So every time, guys, I say this again, every time a card is in power creep, consider it. I don't have to play a card. I coin this card out at turn 2. And I just play in at turn 2 on 4/4. I don't have anything on the board. So it's just a neutral 3 mana 4/4. You can often see this card probably as an I first trade my minions in anyway. So this card is a 3 mana 4/4 without text. This is a good card. This is already a really good card in Arena. And this card has maybe some potential because of the freeze that it works like with Murabi or something. Some crazy things. I don't know. There's no upside really in freezing your own minions, right? Like, play this card at turn 2, play this at turn 3. After you made a trade. This card is alright. Innovate is turn 1, 4/4. I don't know. Nah, I mean, you can see every card with Innovate and it kind of becomes busted. It's not as busted that, like, it's not even close to like that. Like, if you compare this with Innovating and Fletching, of course this card's not so. Like, maybe you can play it in some mage deck. Nah, but you don't really want to. In a lot of decks that are... The thing is, a lot of control decks don't care about minions that they play themselves on the board. Survival, they care about a 3 mana 4/4. Maybe in some kind of shaman deck it can make some work. We'll see. It's kind of like meh, but it's definitely always a card to consider, guys. You cannot give this card too bad because it just being a good power creep. Grave Shambler, a 4 mana 4/4 elemental. Whenever your minion is destroyed, gain +1/+1. Whenever your weapon is destroyed. So you play Warx turn 2, you attack, and then you have a 4 mana 5/5, something like this. But which, I mean, you have to play it in Shaman that plays Jade Claws, and then you coin this. Whenever your weapon is destroyed. It's an elemental, so you have a little elemental synergy there. Rogue elemental is not really that much, but hey, and rogue. Play your weapon turn 3, attack. Play your rallying blade turn 3 and you attack, or your war axe turn 2, attack, and then you play this on curve and you have a 4 mana 5/5 elemental. It's definitely a decent arena card because of elementals so strong, or also they're having some synergy. You have some decent weapon value of like alright weapons. Like these are cards for me that I like. Yeah, they are definitely unsure and can find some play around. They're not gonna swing the meta around, and that's with a lot of these neutral cards. I mean, this card can be alright in some specific decks where it fits in, but yeah, it's like a nah, just not as flashy that I am gonna like. I'm too impressed. Another card, 3 mana 3/1 Fraggle, Death Rattle. If it is your opponent's turn, summon a 2/2 Ghoul. Okay, that's better than the Paladin card. For 3 mana 3/1, you can play this in a Death Rattle deck. People want to trade into it, then you gain a 2/2. It's kind of decent value, but yeah, this is not a card that I'm too. Just a Death Rattle of 2/2 being a little questionable really doesn't always work. It's a good deck in aggro though. I mean, play this in. Don't underestimate this card to like play in an aggro druid or something, and you have this early and you just hit the face, and it's a good aggro card. It's kind of like Eggnapper. It's kind of like Eggnapper, right? But just a little worse. Just a little worse Eggnapper, right? It's a little like Eggnapper kinda. Yeah, not so flashy for me. Oh man, all these neutral cards, guys. 2 mana 2/3 Battle Cry. Give a friendly minion spell damage. Alright, that's pretty alright. Tuskarr Fisherman. Spell damage is a powerful mechanic. 2 mana 2/3 is not too bad stat line, but it's again, guys. This is like, I don't really see a spell damage deck yet there, but then 2 mana 2/3 is alright, and it gives spell damage, so sure, it's gonna be alright. I don't see in spell damage yet working well, but it can be an. I mean, I know we all know how Telnus can be for 2 mana, so it's pretty decent card. 2 mana 1/1 Divine Shield spell damage. So that's like Blood Mage Telnus. Instead of a draw, you have a Divine Shield. So that's definitely worse. But Telnus is also a really power creep, or Telnus is probably like a really strong card. So maybe in some ways you want this +1 spell damage badly, play it in Rogue, have a Divine Shield, 2 mana 1/1. It's an alright card. It does have a Divine Shield, another really fine card for Arena here and there. And maybe Rogue can have some play with this card if there is need for spell damage. You're not gonna, it's not as good as Telnus, but hey, you will probably play 2 Telnus if you can play Telnus, so maybe you can get away with a little weaker Telnus. Wretched Tiller. Whenever this minion attacks, deal 2 damage to the enemy hero. Yeah, that's like the nerfed Leper Gnome that we have now, but worse because it's a 1/1 still, and it doesn't always work. Yeah, that's a horrible card. 1 mana 2/1 Veteran. Battle Cry. Give a friendly minion +1. Attack. That's pretty alright, actually. That's pretty alright. This is a good card, guys. This is a really good card in aggro decks. So 1 mana 2/1 is already decent, and it gives a friendly minion always 1 attack, so that 1 attack stay. This is like a card that helps Zoo, maybe. This is like a card Zoo really badly needs nowadays. And the 1 attack also stays, so it's where Abusive was a 1 mana 2/1, but they nerfed it. You gain 1 attack for always. This is a good card, guys. I'm not sure if aggro is gonna be good enough or a Zoo based deck good enough, but this is a good card. It's just an abusive Sergeant with an unnerved abusive Sergeant, where instead of the 2 attack you gain, you now gain 1 attack for all the time. Yeah, this is a good card. Aww. Aww. The last card for now, guys. 1 mana 1/1, Deathscale Knight. 1 mana 1/1, Lifesteal Murloc. That's decent, but Murlocs don't really care about lifesteal, right? And you pay 1 more mana than the Tiny Fin. So yeah, I don't think this is gonna see any play, sadly. No way that we wanna play a Knight over, like, the Tiny Fin is just better. And Murlocs really don't care about lifesteal. So yeah, guys, that was the big review on every card. We now have reviewed every card, but we are not done. I'm gonna do now the full review on everything. I'm gonna do predictions. I'm gonna do a class review. I'm gonna give every class just a short review of what tier I would say every class is gonna be in, and some predictions. So, but I really